Fight!
When it came to 2D action-adventure games, the Wonderboy games were one of the leading series in its genre at the time. The Wonderboy games were known for having great music, colorful graphics, cute monsters, and carefully balanced level design. But it's also one of the more confusing series, with many ports and rehashes on competing platforms under different names. So we should probably start from the very beginning to understand why Wonderboy got so much attention. The original Wonderboy made its debut in the arcades in 1986 and was the first game developed by the three-headed company known as Escape at that point. In this action platformer game, you control a boy named Tom Tom, whose girlfriend Tanya has been snatched away by the evil Wood King. Clueless of his whereabouts, Tom Tom has no option but to search the entire island, consisting of countless stages and environments. Wonderboy is a fast-paced game, and you constantly grab fruit in order to replenish your life bar. Eggs provide you with useful items like a skateboard, and to reach the final levels, the player is required to collect all the hidden dolls. Wonderboy was successful in the arcades and got ported to pretty much every gaming platform, including Sega's Master System, complete with classic box art. The blonde-haired cave boy was also used in various Sega flyers and promotions. Although Sega trademarked the name Wonderboy, all rights to the games were owned by Weststone, who allowed Hudson Soft to port Wonderboy over to the NES, replacing the main character and renaming it Adventure Island, a game that spawned numerous sequels of its own, which were entirely unrelated to the Wonderboy series. With the success of Wonderboy, the developers were able to fund the next chapter. The company was renamed to Weststone, and they were able to hire more talent. When game designer Ruichi Nishizawa began working on the sequel, he decided to give the series a slight RPG-esque spin. The new product, Monsterland, is a unique mix between platforming and arcade action. It made its debut in the arcades, but had the most success on Sega's 8-bit Master System. According to the manual, the game takes place 11 years after the events of Wonderboy. The player must travel through the 12 levels of Monsterland while the clock ticks away. Like in RPGs, you can buy armor, shields, and boots. But you can't revisit levels to grind for gold, so you must carefully plan on which items you want to spend your hard-earned cash. There are many secret doors in Monsterland, some leading to members of the Resistance, and if you find them all, you'll be rewarded with an item to help you beat the final level. The game is challenging, but a rewarding sense of accomplishment will keep you coming back for more. Monsterland introduced many elements that made their way to future games, such as the Myconid, the quiz-loving Sphinx, and the maze-filled Nightmare Castle. Since the game was so different from its predecessor, they gave it a different title in Japan, Monsterworld. All future games with RPG elements would be part of this series. Although the focus of the series was always on Sega platforms, most of the games made their way to competing PC Engine consoles. And to make it even more confusing, there were also special ports released in Brazil using characters from the local comic book series Turma da Mônica. Wonderboy 3 Monster Lair was a bit of an oddity in the series. It still has the familiar Monsterworld theme, but gameplay-wise returns to the arcade feel of the first game. The game debuted in the arcades in 1988 and got ported to the Mega Drive and PC Engine. You control a new character named Leo through a number of side-scrolling stages. At the end of each level, you fight a boss while you ride your dragon in a shoot-'em-up style. In the two-player mode, the second player controls Princess Purapryl, a name which you might recognize from a future title. Overall, Monster Lair is a fun playthrough, despite being a somewhat shallow experience. A completely different Wonderboy 3 was developed for the home console market, starting with the Master System release in 1989. Wonderboy 3: The Dragon's Trap is a direct sequel to the second Wonderboy game, and it begins in Nightmare Castle, the lair of the dreaded Mecha Dragon. Luckily, this time around, it's much easier to navigate through the maze. After defeating the dragon, our hero gets cursed and turns into a lizard man. And the only way to lift the curse is to find the Salamander Cross. Needless to say, it's not an easy journey to complete. After the introduction, you start your grand adventure in the main town, called Alcedo, which acts as a hub to the various regions of the land. In lizard form, you can only access a few areas, but after defeating the dragons of Monsterland, you gain access to more useful forms, such as Mouse Man, who has the ability to climb checkered blocks, or Piranha Man, who's capable of swimming underwater. The various shops in Monsterland sell you all kinds of upgrades. A unique feature is the Charm Point system. Each piece of equipment requires a certain number of CP in order to be purchased. This prevents you from buying the strong equipment early in the game, unless you'd rather grind for Charmstones. Wonderboy 3 was the first game in the series to feature non-linear gameplay, and was developed directly for the home console market. The graphics and music are both outstanding, and combining that with addicting gameplay qualifies it as one of the best games for the Master System. Wonderboy and Monsterworld, released in 1992, again for a variety of consoles, starting with the Mega Drive. Mr. Nishizawa, one of the main forces behind the series, was not involved in this title, since he was busy porting Wonderboy 3 over to the Game Gear. But despite his absence, the game retains the same Monsterworld feel, and happens to be one of the strongest titles in the series. Monsterworld opens with a nice throwback to Wonderboy 2, and continues to reference the earlier games with the appearance of the Sphinx and Nightmare Castle. Our blue-haired hero, Shion, is set on the task to bring back peace to Monsterworld. The game continues the RPG adventure gameplay from Wonderboy 3. You once again travel through a variety of lands, and various items are required to progress further into the game. For example, a trident allows you to swim underwater to meet Poseidon himself. With the pygmy-sized equipment, you can shrink in size and enter the volcano. In the town, you can relax a bit and listen to awesome music, or stop at the local shops for goods and equipment. And all shop owners have their own unique personality. In every town, there's also a little companion who will join Shion on his quest. The game has bright and colorful visuals, strong art direction, and great music by Mr. Sakamoto, who composed the music for all Monsterworld games up to this point. Wonderboy and Monsterworld is the perfect game to pick up and play on a rainy afternoon. A stripped-down version was also ported over to the Master System. Shion's adventures continued in the Sonic the Hedgehog comic series, although the art style is a big departure from the Monsterworld cuteness fans may be used to. Wonderboy and Monsterworld ended with a "to be continued" message, leaving many players waiting for the final chapter in the series, Monsterworld 4. But unfortunately, it was never released outside of Japan until 2012. The story is set many years after Shion's adventures. While the game still has an established Monsterworld feel, the game designers made several changes to the formula to keep it fresh, with the most notable inclusion being an Arabian Nights theme and a female lead by the name of Asha. Cute creatures called Pepelugu play an important part in the game, as they seem to be quite the rage in Rapadagna, the main town in the game. But are they really as cute as they look? Asha befriends a rare blue Pepelugu, and her trusted companion helps her overcome many obstacles and puzzles in the game. The gameplay also got a big speed boost, as Asha is able to run and automatically dodge enemy attacks depending on her stats. However, the game is structured to be more linear compared to the two previous games. The action and puzzle solving largely takes place inside the dungeons, and there's only one location to do all your shopping. But overall, Monsterworld 4 is still a fantastic title. To commemorate Monsterworld 4, an Asha figurine was released as part of the Sega Gals line. All the games in the series are conveniently bundled in the Monsterworld collection for PS2, complete with a limited edition soundtrack, but sadly, it was also only released in Japan. Luckily, most games were made available on PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, and Nintendo's eShop. Westone continued to develop games for Sega consoles until the end of the Dreamcast, but even after 2 decades, Wonderboy is still on the mind of one of the original developers, holding out the hope of continuing the saga someday in 3D. And so ends our brief but unforgettable quest. Good night, Wonderboy. Good night, Monsterworld. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy classic gaming documentaries like this one, consider checking out other videos such as Secret of Mana, Donkey Kong Country, and MSX Konami games. And if you're interested in both old and new gaming videos alike, check out youtube.com/ChaseFaceShow, where I reminisce about classic Japanese games from my childhood and play new games that I think are top-shelf material.